I realized that it's not always a 50-50 kind of arrangement with husband and wife in the home. Sometimes the wife may have the capacity to give more, maybe a 70, and then the husband can do a 30 if he is in a particularly busy season.
Hello and welcome to the Connect to Marriage podcast. I'm Aaron and I'm your host for this episode. In each episode of the Connect to podcast, we'll be tackling questions that couples ask about marriage, communication, conflict, and so much more. We hope you'll keep tuning in to learn with us as you grow closer, deeper, and stronger in your marriage. Raising kids can bring immense joy, but also requires significant time and effort, often challenging a couple's connection as they navigate the demands of parenting and nurturing their marital relationship. In today's episode, we'll explore how couples can keep their marriage strong in the midst of raising a family. We're happy to have our guest Ailin here with us today. She and her husband Roy have not one, not two, but 5 children. Welcome to the Connect 2 podcast, Ailin. Thank you for being here.
Hi Aaron, thanks so much for having me. It's a real privilege to be joining you today. I'm Ailin, married to Roy. We have 5 children, 2 boys, 3 girls, ages 10 to 17, and we would be married 18 years this year. I've been a stay-home mom since my first child was born, but in the last 1.5 years, I've started some part-time administrative work in my church. And I think together our family really enjoys going out for picnics, and my husband and I try to get in some walks on our days off. Generally, we just really enjoy spending time together as a family.
Thanks for sharing a bit about yourself. Can you share with our audience, how is it like then raising 5 children? What's your daily routine usually like?
Yeah, with 5 children, there's always something going on. Most of the time, it can be quite chaotic, very fun, sometimes very overwhelming, but enjoyable. I think I'm just really grateful to have all of them with me, with us, and experience life together.
So I can imagine that there are different routines for different ones. For the older ones, they're probably a bit more independent already. But for the younger ones, are you still a lot more involved with them?
My youngest is 10 currently, still in primary school. He does need a bit more help, especially in school, because he is also dyslexic, and so does need quite a bit more attention. The day-to-day as well, the needs when he comes home from school, to be present with him and to encourage him as he struggles along, I think, in school. So I think there are definitely the demands of that with the little one, or the younger one per se. With the older kids, they're very much more independent, so they don't really need me as much hands-on. But I think it's always great to still be at home when they get home from school, when they want to unload. You never know when they want to say something, and it's nice to be around when they do. And also just to hang out, even if we are not really doing anything together per se, but just in the same space, knowing that, mom's around. If a safe space to come home to. I think after school, that's always very comforting for them. Come over, bug me for a snack. Yeah, things that they know that they can always come back home to, with mom being around. Yeah.
I know you're sharing with a bit of hindsight now, because I can imagine 5 years ago, or maybe even 7 years ago, things will have looked very different.
It was very crazy then, I would say. Very busy, hands completely full. I think in a lot of ways it was probably almost like survival mode even, just trying to get things done for the day-to-day, every moment by moment, the needs of the different children as well. With the whole range of maybe having an infant and then a toddler and then preschoolers all lumped into one. Yeah, and each child would have required different things from me at different times, and so learning how to juggle all that. Definitely there were very overwhelming moments, but I think with parenting it's a lot of on-the-job learning, on-the-job training, where you figure out what works for your family best along the way. What might work for one family need not necessarily work for you. And for me, I think I had to learn to perhaps lower some of my own expectations as well as to what I could achieve in the day, closing one eye or maybe even 2 about the household chores, focusing maybe on certain discipline issues that I thought were more pertinent at that point in time, or maybe just learning to spend that time with my kids in that moment and not be concerned about other things that might be threatening to weigh me down. Just take in that time with them when they are young, even in the craziness, even in the mess, to appreciate what I have with them then. Simple things like, reading books or crafting, kicking a ball, dealing with tantrums. I think it was always helpful also to have somewhat of a routine in place so that we know what's going to happen next and how we can structure our day. Might give myself a little breather here and there as well. But yeah, not to place too high expectations on myself, I think, when they're all little.
So keeping that same season in mind, what were some of the challenges you faced in keeping your connection strong as a married couple? You were so busy, right?
Yeah.
How do you keep your connection strong with Roy?
I think time is definitely a big thing in trying to find in the midst of the busyness. I mean, we all only have the same 24 hours, and if most of it is spent caregiving in the day, by the end of it, I think I was probably pretty much quite exhausted to want to do anything else even. The top thing on my mind is probably just to hit the sack, right? Get to bed and try and get some rest to start the next day again. But I think we recognized that it was very important to keep on building that relationship with each other. That marriage is the closest relationship that we have. And so we have to keep working at it, to be intentional about it. And it required some, I would say, maybe reorientating of mindset in terms of how I spend my energy so that I still have a bit of energy at the end of the day and time to hang out with my husband. And on both parts, I think, for him also to recognize the needs of the home and also to be a part of it, help out, so that it avails each of us to be with each other when we need to.
So when Roy helps out, how does that make you feel?
I like to say that it's not so much about helping me, but it's just doing a part in the home that he's a part of in the first place, for both husband and wife, children included as well. So, everyone does their part in making the home a safe space, a loving space, a tidy, enjoyable space for everyone. So when everyone does that, it just makes it more pleasant. But I think it's also learning to look at each other's needs and to see what is lacking and how we can step up. I realized that it's not always a 50-50 kind of arrangement with husband and wife in the home. Sometimes the wife may have the capacity to give more, maybe a 70, and then the husband can do a 30 if he is in a particularly busy season, and vice versa when the wife is just overwhelmed and can't seem to handle it, and she might only be able to give a 20 and the husband would have to chip in more, and do a 80 or even more. So it's really just learning to look at what is needed and how each person can step up to make family life an enjoyable one. But it definitely is nice to always be appreciated and to know that you're not alone in this. It's not a single parent thing. It's not just because I'm the mom, therefore I have to do more. But both parents take an active role in raising children, keeping the home, building the marriage, that it's what's needed for a good relationships to grow.
You're married 18 years now. Can you share a specific instance where you both made an effort to navigate a particularly challenging situation together?
The early years of marriage are filled with unique challenges and opportunities for growth. What happens after saying I do? At the Connect to Just Married workshop, you will gain practical tools to work through differences and conflicts and learn ways to keep the romance alive. If you have been married for 5 years or less, this workshop is for you. Get more information at www.family.org.sg/C2JustMarried.
There was a period when my husband was unemployed for a few months, and I think that caused considerable stress, financial strain. I felt quite worried, quite concerned, and it was definitely a difficult time for both of us. On my part, I had to make sure that I remain supportive and understanding the reasons that surrounded the decision or the circumstance, and also making sure that I don't point fingers to cast the blame on my husband. And on his part, realizing, the need to step up, to, sit around and not do anything, but to be active in maybe trying to look for a job or in the meantime, finding other ways to sustain the family. And he did. The fact that both of us were trying to work out a solution, and were patient with each other and talked openly about our feelings and what we thought about how we were feeling about the situation, what we thought about it, both anxieties but also hope, the support, knowing that we've got each other's back, knowing that we're not blaming each other and just trying to get through this together. I think that really helped in moving forward in that situation.
So in this season of challenge that you are facing together, what helped you facilitate those conversations?
As a couple, we've always tried to be open and honest with each other, to be willing to listen to each other, knowing that only when there's honest conversation, then we know how each other is actually feeling, what we're actually thinking. Sometimes we work on the assumption that, oh, you should know already, or you should know better. But I think in many marriages, we actually don't know better, and we don't know what each other is actually thinking or feeling. And so there needs to be the initiative to talk about it, to raise the issue, but I think also to raise it in a manner that is non-confrontational, that is patient and in a calm manner, so that we can actually hear each other at the root of the issue and not so much just the overwhelmed emotions that we might be feeling at that point in time.
So how can couples prioritize each other, when their schedules are just so packed with work, with parenting, and all the other commitments that they have? How can they be setting time to have those conversations that you mentioned earlier?
I think in the ideal world, we would think about regular date nights, carved out time. But that is really, ideal when you have maybe help in the home, or you can afford a babysitter, or you don't have a nursing baby. But more likely, you probably aren't able to do that. These date nights will probably be few and far between, or might take a very long time before they actually happen again, especially if you're in the throes of caring for little ones. I think that beyond the big spectacular moments that we might all crave, it's really about the little moments in between. In a regular day, that small things matter, the small words, the small acts, the small gestures, saying your thank yous, your please, your, thank you for dinner, it was very delicious, buying a spouse a favorite drink, making sure that you put things back where they belong so that you don't, cause more trouble in the home or more work in the home. Being ready to say sorry when something doesn't go right. These little things, I think, make bigger impacts on relationships than we realize, and it helps foster that emotional connectedness between husband and wife, so that they feel like each other has the support of the other. We are known, we are loved, we are appreciated. And it's when you have that emotional connectedness that would allow one to be more willing to talk about things, where you can then raise the difficult issues where you might be feeling hurt or neglected or overlooked, where maybe it might be a difficult season at work, whether it's in the home or outside the home, in the office. It's only when you feel like you can really talk to your spouse in a trusted manner that you'll be willing to raise these things. And also then being willing to carve out that time to listen to each other, talk about difficult things, not be quick to point fingers, I think, just to hear each other out first, and then try and work through a solution together. But of course, if you can have regular date nights, go for it. That's always a plus, a bonus. Intimacy, both physically, emotionally, to be really connected, that helps with the building that marriage.
Totally resonate with you. I have a 3-year-old son, and date nights with my wife, really hard to come by. Every meal we have is with him. It's really hard to have that conversation also when you have a toddler who's yakking all the time, and we can't have those meaningful conversations. But I hear you about the emotional connectedness. I think that's something that most of us neglect to do sometimes. We're just so busy doing the functional things, right?
Yeah.
The chores to be done, things that I need to do tomorrow. But just to relate and to connect emotionally, just hearing each other, how they're feeling for that day. I think that's so important.
Yes.
In each podcast, we address a frequently asked question that couples ask about marriage. So today's question is from a stay-home mom. I have 2 energetic children under 7 years old and another child on the way. So each day is a battle. My husband works long hours, and when he comes home, he spends most of the time with the kids, which I am appreciative of, but he doesn't make the effort to connect with me. I feel like I'm drifting apart from him and even feel resentful that he does not seem to care about me or our marriage. How can I communicate to him that I would like both of us to prioritize our marriage, even in the midst of our tiredness?
It's always helpful to be honest about how you're feeling. But I think also equally important to know when to raise it, the tone in which we are communicating that, and even the time in which you choose to talk about it. It may not be so ideal when both are really tired already or maybe upset at the end of the day to bring up such a difficult topic like that. But also knowing how important it is to have it addressed and work through together. I remember fondly, or not so fondly, about moments where, in the thick of things at the end of the day, it could feel like a very lonely time to just be at home entirely with many little ones and with no other adult to talk to. The desire to talk to another adult is very high. And if my husband was not able to meet that need, then I can understand how distressing or discouraging it can be. The encouragement to raise it at an opportune time and for your husband to take note of your concerns. I think also the first thing probably you can be doing is to be appreciative of each other's work, both in and out of the home. So for the wife to appreciate what the husband has done, at work, to bring home the bacon, to, provide for the family. But also for the husband to appreciate the work that the wife does in the home, with all the caregiving that is done in every moment, the lack of downtime, the intense day-to-day dealing with tantrums and meltdowns and unexplained refusal to eat. Yeah, all kinds of challenges that happens that I think sometimes husbands are not aware of. But yeah, good to raise so that both can be on the same page and to remind each other that you're a team working together for the good of your family. It is really both parties, as responsible for raising their children as it is for maintaining and strengthening the marriage. So yeah, I encourage them to keep working at it, keep trying, keep talking, keep listening. Yeah, don't give up, I think. Yeah, because it's so important and so helpful for family life.
Thank you so much, Ailin, for spending your time here with us today, and for sharing so many helpful insights on making our marriage a priority, even in the midst of all our busy schedules. I hear you, especially when you mentioned about how we as couples need to be intentional, to pause, to listen, to appreciate each other, and to just spend that time to just connect emotionally. Before we let you go, do you have any last words for our listeners?
I think it's really worthwhile putting all the effort and intentionality in building a strong marriage. I think when couples are emotionally connected, that's when they know that they are supported, they know that we've got each other's back, that's more likely to help you weather whatever storm may come your way. And I think personally, it also just makes the relationship so much more joyous to have someone who knows you and loves you journey through life together, through the ups and downs and through every season in life. And I think just having strong marriages, that's where we create that safe and loving environment for our children to grow up in. And that's really the best place for them, even as we think of our children and we want the best for them. The best that we can do for them is probably to have really strong marriages so that they know that they are in a loving space and that they will continue to be loved.
Thank you, Ailin, once again.
Thanks so much.
In each podcast, we end off with a couple challenge for couples to do and to share with each other. So if you're listening to this with your spouse, here's your challenge for this week. Share one thing you appreciate your spouse for when it comes to parenting. Then share one thing that you would like to do with your spouse within the next month and commit to do it. That's all that we have for today. We hope that you found today's episode helpful and encouraging. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to share it with a friend who might also benefit from it. For more marriage resources and our latest articles, do check out our website www.family.org.sg. You can also follow us on Facebook at focusonthefamily.sg or on Instagram at thrivingfamilysg. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to take care of yourself and your spouse.